So, but I just want to kind of get it out there, so kind of get me on track. So, did everybody see the protocol link in the chat?
Mine failed. Yep. Okay. Let me try it again.
That was one you opened.
Yeah, I know, but I just was gonna try to see it.
Oh, okay.
Well, mine opened, but it got an error message, and then wouldn't do anything.
Uh-oh.
So
let me do this, Terry. I'm going to make a copy and try and give you a link to the copy.
Will you send me one too? The link.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I just put it in the chat, so the second one is the copy.
Okay, I got the copy of the protocol from the chat.
All right. So, Christina, can you see it?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay, so let's go ahead and introduce ourselves a little bit. So, why don't we just whip around really quick? Most of you, actually all of you know me. I'm Joe. So.
Okay,
well, I just put it in the chat, so the second one is the copy.
It's a song reference.
Okay, I got the copy of the protocol from the chat.
Hey, Rachel and Chris, would you like to introduce yourselves?
You don't have to now, because you just introduced us, Joe.
Okay, so let's do personal this way.
I'm Chris. I live in Boise. Went to the Boise State Riding Project in 2012 and work as an Idaho Corps coach.
Rachel Bear. I also live in Boise. I went through the Boise State Riding Project in 2007.
So let's put it in the chat. So the second one is the copy.
And I'm also an Idaho Corps coach.
Great. We're getting a little feedback, so.
Yeah, just a little bit of feedback, and it seems like a minute and a half back, so I'm not sure if somebody's got the live stream up too.
Yeah, right, that's what's happening. Does anyone have the live stream going also?
It may have been me. I just exited out of a tab.
Great. Okay, it stopped.
Mallory, that means you get to introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, I'm Mallory. I just started working. I'm going to be working this summer with the MOOC in Philadelphia along with Christina. So.
Yay.
Yay.
And I'm Christina. I'm jumping in because I was mentioned. And I'm sitting here in Berkeley, California, in Tanya Baker's office. But normally I'm in Philadelphia, and I'm really excited Mallory's going to be working with us this summer. She just finished her master's degree on Thursday, so yay! And she's teaching 7th grade, I think, in the fall. So we're really excited that she's going to be playing with us in the MOOC this summer.
I guess I'll introduce myself.
All right, go Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry Elliott, and I'm in Kentucky. It's stormy here, so who knows? May get shut off here, but I just came to kind of watch and see what this coaching thing's all about, so that maybe I can help a little bit later on. I teach intro to lit and composition and technical writing at Western Kentucky University.
And I'm Chad Sansing. I teach in Central Virginia. Very excited to be only 2 days or so away from becoming a technology teacher. I went through the Central Virginia Writing Project, and I just like to be around and help do stuff. So here I am, and I'm also serving as kind of a helper from the Mozilla WebMaker community for CL MOOC as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, and I'm going to bring us back to the protocol because it's going to be how I'll sort of kick this thing off and sort of get back myself out of this talking role here. But first I'm going to talk just a little bit about what this whole coaching situation is. A couple things. I'm going to kind of go backwards on this protocol. I want to talk about design thinking. So as we think about this as a coaching meeting, I think that one of the things that's sort of important to remember is because we have this short time frame, this is not like the deep type of coaching where we can all like dive deeply into Chris and Rachel's plan and hear them. You know, I'm sure they could talk about their plan for an hour, and any one of us could talk about our ideas or in response to their plan for an hour. And so what we want to do instead is really just, absent that kind of time. And, there is an opportunity for us to give you more support if you feel like it. So we don't want things to feel rushed. But we do want this to be kind of a quick and fast process with a design thinking outcome. So the idea being that, we're not going to we won't expect to have like a perfectly crystal clear picture of your plan to respond to, because we just don't have the time. So we'll get kind of like a glance at your plan, or we'll get kind of hear you sort of rough out your plan, and then you'll hear our best feedback, sort of thinking about ourselves as participants and then also as facilitators. And so the role plays can kind of feel a little bit silly. I think that one of the things about design thinking is like, that you'll get participant feedback for your idea in the MOOC, and so we can simulate that by doing little role plays. So hopefully that sort of lowers the pressure on everybody, and it also explains that, if you don't feel like your plan came across perfectly, that's okay. And if you don't feel like you got to, if you feel like you wish you could have talked to Chris and Rachel for 20 more minutes about some refinement you might make to their plan, that's okay too. So this should feel kind of fast, and it's the idea of rapid prototyping. So I'm also okay with people like not liking this protocol or breaking from the protocol, but I did want to explain the rationale. So there's that. That's the design thinking piece. And then the other two things I want to say here, I wanted to just mention the Kevin and Terry story, or the Terry and Kevin story. I could have Terry tell the story, but I'd much rather fictionalize it myself. So when they led the first Make cycle last year, they had these plans for what everyone would do, and I've heard them subsequently reflect that they really thought podcast was going to be this really big important part of introducing yourself in the MOOC last year. And what they found was like what participants took up was really different than what they thought would be taken up. And they were kind of reflecting it on their role of facilitators of having like shifted and needing to be on their feet sort of that week. And when at the end of the week everyone felt like it was wildly successful, and they were kind of scratching their heads and just kind of like amazed that it went in different directions but still felt successful. So I think that's the thing, if you hear us kind of talking about things that you say, wait, that doesn't even sound like our plan, I think that's probably why, is that we're trying to like, demonstrate that your ideas will suggest other ideas, and so a lot of this stuff won't be linear. So that's the Terry and Kevin story. And then the other thing that I wanted to share was, like, as we get through this process today, there might be ideas that make you say, oh no, is our plan, like, is it even going to work? Is this plan, like, totally flawed? And I would say that was just a really common feeling going into facilitating any make cycle. And so our joking expression last year was like, oh, you probably can't break the MOOC, or maybe you will break the MOOC. And so just the idea that, like, it would be interesting if a make cycle ended up being a failure. I don't even know how we would categorize a failure, but just to know that, like, the weight of the world is not on your shoulders, and that if, we'll all try to figure it out if things get confusing or strange, but you most likely can't break the MOOC, and if you did, you'd have a lot of people who are interested in how you managed to do that. So no pressure is what I want to say. So that is my 5-minute intro. So what we'll do next
is break the protocol, because we have a really quick question about the Terry and Kevin story.
Yeah, go.
What do you think? How was it successful? Like, you had all these plans and then it ended up being wildly successful. What do you guys contribute to that success?
Go ahead, Terry.
I think what happened was we had this field of dreams philosophy, If you build it, they will come. And we thought we were building a plan for something very specific, but in reality what we were doing was building a process that we used, I think most everybody used throughout the MOOC. And it's what Joe was talking about, this sense of invitation to participate, the sense that anybody could play the game as long as they anteed up. And the ante up didn't have to be what Kevin and I were talking about. And frankly, you know, we got a lot out of it, even though I think we only had one person actually do a podcast. And I think what happened too was that people reacted against the complexity of it by moving towards simpler ways of introducing themselves. Vines, memes, you know, just wide variety of things. So, I mean, that's a short answer for that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate you breaking protocol, Chris. So keep it up if you need to. So what I think we might do is just power through this protocol and break it whenever we need to. And I think that you guys are good guinea pigs because we have looked through your plan. Most of us have looked through your plan, like, and given it some feedback, maybe even on the Google Doc already. So though we're familiar already, I would just say, like, in 5 minutes, describe your plan to us. What might the participants do?
Go for it.
No, you go.
We want people to make a how-to guide. We are thinking behind that is because it's the first week, it's really important that people introduce themselves to each other. And our number one outcome is that that they all get to know each other, and we think that a how-to is a good way to do that because it provides that freedom that Terry was talking about, and letting participants adjust it to whatever they want it to be. And we also feel like it's really important to acknowledge everyone as an expert when they come in the door, that they all have something worth sharing, and that's really what we're there for. And I'm totally going to give props to Mozilla and the teaching kits for being part of what inspired our thinking for that, because I think their approach with that has been, at least informed my thinking a lot, and how we can kind of go about doing the same thing and just remixing it.
And since Chris first came up with this idea, we've just been paying attention to how present how-to guides are and authentic they are. Like, people just make how-to guides for other people, and you access them all the time. And so it's this culture that is totally voluntary, basically, and really dependent upon people contributing. So we like that idea of the authenticity there. And they're just everywhere. And you can think about them, like, without, you know, just accessing them anytime you want to complete a task. So we thought that that was really exciting. And Chris kind of alluded to this, and for those of you who've seen the document, you know this, but we're thinking about how to, like, pair that how-to guide with introductions. And so they'll be maybe doing something like how to be a resident of Boise, Idaho, or how to be a 12th grade English teacher. So they'll in some way related to who they are and something that they want to share with the community.
Good.
Okay, you are under time. So what might participants do? How might they take this up? What's a range?
I mean, I think Rachel nailed it with they might do how-tos about themselves. They might do how-tos about what they already know. And then kind of at least my little inquiry into it is engineering an anti-how-to, or like a how-do-I, where you maybe use that same format and then just fill it with questions to say, okay, I really want to make something on popcorn for the first time. What are all the things I need to know? What are all my questions right off the bat? And then share that with the community, and then someone else creates the how-to that responds to it. And Anna commented on that in the doc about almost setting up like a personal ad kind of thing, and that really resonated with both of us.
Okay. And so I think now what is appropriate is like, because participants will, get a newsletter and get the introduction, and many of them will glance at the newsletter, or they'll glean what's happening from what they're supposed to be doing from what they see in the Google Plus community. So even though we're not going deep into your plan, the folks will just respond to what they might do as participants. So some ideas of how the group might talk, you might say, I might make blank, or I would want to know more about blank, or blank really interests me because blank, or I wonder if we could explore blank. So at this point, the group just should bounce ideas for like 10 minutes. Tangents are welcome and encouraged.
I feel like I feel freed by the idea of how to be a resident of Philadelphia, or how to be Christina Cantrell. That I love, I love the idea of like we all have knowledge, we all have expertise, and it also feels like, what is my expertise? So I can feel myself gravitated towards, how to be Christina Cantrell. That I could make one of those.
I have a lot of different ideas of things that I might make, thinking back to last year, but also things in other contexts. A simple CL-Move portfolio page, a comic, could be something completely lo-fi and physical in a workshop or outside. Might make, you referenced the teaching kits earlier, if there was something, if there was a particular community online that I knew was not necessarily niche, but popular with different kinds of makers, I might go there, like to a site to share a recipe, or to Instructables, which often does kind of youth outreach with contests, and it's pretty good for education in that way. So there's a variety of things I would make. I would probably skew towards the digital production side, but I could definitely see myself doing something like a goofy, like a vinyl figure version of me, combination of how to be me, how to decorate a vinyl figure, something like that. Which would bring me to the second point there. I'd want to know more about how to share lo-fi and no-fi mix with the movie. The breadth of opportunities of how to interpret how to do something or how to not do something, the anti-how-to, that really interests me, because I think it opens up a lot of room for inquiry and curiosity and uncertainty, and for people to begin feeling safe to express those things, but also humor. And I wonder if we could explore the idea of suggesting a quick make and a deep make, a splash and then a swim, something like that.
Yeah, along those lines, something like using like a 15-second Instagram to do a how-to, something very accessible, so that people could do both a short form and a long form how-to. I was thinking about doing it's sheep shearing time, and I was thinking about doing something. How to shear a sheep, which could be quite funny. It often is, in a very sad, discouraging way. So, I might do a Vine that shows outtakes, or an iMovie that has all the horrors of it. But you know, that's it's the process of sharing, of playing with the idea of how to. I think, you know, just to play with the idea of instructing somebody. And I think Chad's got a good idea there, where, you know, you might float in and out between the you know, heavily designed, heavily bullet pointed, or, you know, recipe version of a how-to, and then another one that's just kind of arises out of it. So I don't know how you can't really plan for the emergent stuff. You know, you just can't. But you can do it yourselves, I think. You know, you can come up with some how-to ideas that are just maybe a little off the wall or very simple, as a way to encourage people to actually practice how to.
So, Terry, I was just going to say that your how to shear a sheep made me think that I might want to ask you, how do you shear a sheep while documenting how you shear a sheep? So, like, your make might prompt me to sort of ask you something more about your make, or, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that opens up the
like,
conversation.
How did you make how did you make that?
I don't know yet.
Well, and I'll just pop in really fast. I kind of was thinking along the same lines as Christina, that something I really like the idea of potentially having a make where I could create a video, something like that. But even something as simple as having pictures, you know, and having a blog and doing a step-by-step that way. And so I like that. I think this is great, which we've already brought up the inquiry side of this as well. But I think it's really a great. I'm excited to explore what people post and learn about people through the how-to processes that they share, because I think it's going to say a lot about the diversity of people who are in the MOOC, which will be great.
I mean, it's really pretty meta, isn't it? How to do a how to do.
How to do it.
That's eventually what we're coming back to, isn't it?
I was trying to pick up on the protocol too and say I would want to know more about the way youth today are making how-tos, because I think that there's a lot of that happening, and I liked what Chad said about going to Instructables and maybe looking at some people, you know, looking at some mentor text, and like, how would you use Instagram? I don't know, you know, in this case. So there might be some youth doing that kind of thing. So that's one thing I'd want to know more about. Oh, I guess I wonder if we could explore. I mean, I imagine this might be an emergence thing, but collaborative how-tos too. And I wonder what people might do if they're together when they're, you know, at like a writing project or something, and they're like, oh, let's make a how-to together. You know, I wonder what might happen there.
So what do you guys think? We're about at time for this part of the protocol. Do you want to like sort of speak back about what you heard, what that's got you thinking?
You get to talk first. You take a bunch of notes.
I love taking a bunch of notes. So I heard this great idea about going to communities to find mentor texts, and it just made me think about all the possibilities for publication outside of the Google community, to find these other communities where people could publish their how-tos if they want to. And then some conversation about this, like how to share no-fi or low-fi, less visible how-tos. And then how to not do something. I really liked that phrasing for the anti-how-to. And then the possibility of doing like a quick make and a deep make, so a short form that's relatively simple that people can do, and then a longer form, and they could move in and out of those. And then the possible inquiry aspects that a couple different people talked about. And then just Christina talking about the, creating a collaborative how-to and whether or not that'll emerge naturally and what that process might look like. That's all I wrote down.
Yeah, I really like that question of how to share the lo-fi stuff and just what would happen or what will happen with how-tos collaboratively. I also am really curious as an emergence thing about revisiting this later on in cycles down the road when people learn about electronic circuitry, when they go back and write a how-to about it or something like that, or they remix their how-to and they have a deeper understanding of it. And that was one of the things that stood out to us about it as something that kind of were like, we see some potential here. Yeah, like I just saw Chad's comment come up on there. I think that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. And like I said earlier about the teaching kits from Mozilla, that's definitely one thing that I would want to plug in there. And there's some hilarious, like, really bad how-tos or just like how-to fails that I think would just engage people and
oh yeah, we talked about that. If you search on YouTube for bad how-to videos,
there's some good stuff out there.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool because then you're naming like the necessary features of an effective how-to, and then also looking at really good ones too. Put it in the newsletter. Thank you.
So did you have any clarifying questions about what you heard? Or anything you want somebody to say more about?
So I'm wondering about the lo-fi, no-fi, less visible stuff. Has that, I mean, the last time around, did you have to deal with that as an issue? Is that unique to this particular make, or is it like a larger question that you're trying to deal with?
Yeah, folks should chime in, but what I'm thinking of here are my memories of, in particular, people interested in food makes and garden to table and recipes and things like that. And of course, the most visible examples of that were, I think, people who felt comfortable sharing online and maybe already had spaces like blogs or photo sharing accounts, where it wasn't a big deal to kind of document what they were doing as they went along, and then put it into a space they already had online. But you might find people who have an online presence, they've joined Sail MOOC, maybe a Twitter account, maybe they signed up for a blog years ago but never really got it or whatever. How do you front load some, expectations is completely the wrong word. How do you front load maybe invitations or give some ideas about, if you've never done this before, here's some things to be sure to do while you're documenting, what you're doing in your workshop or in your garden or at the youth center. Just take a few shots of things and then work with a coach, work with a lead, work with someone in the community to figure out how to share that online if that's what you want to do. If you don't have a space, let's figure, and you want one to share this work, let's make that part of your MOOC experience as well. Just so people who don't have that presence or that idea of documenting and then sharing online, they have the expertise. Let's make sure that they know there are people out there who will help them migrate that to share it inside the MOOC.
I think that's one of the things that the support group facilitators are going to be very conscious of, is people who maybe get very enthusiastic and present you with an example of something they made, but they don't get the idea that you want them to go beyond that and document how they did it, how they actually did it. So, we'll be looking for that as facilitators as well. I mean, you all should too, on the different spaces we've got. But, you're not alone in this. We're there with you to help as well, and to talk with you about it. If we run into things, we'll just say, hey, Rachel, we got this response over here. It's pretty cool. Maybe we could encourage this person to get a Flickr account or do something a little bit further, and we might have to. I'm not into us being a tech support, but I think we could help with that.
I think Terry, that's a great segue to sort of what the next part of the protocol, which is the idea that now we're going to sort of pretend that like Chris and Rachel just like get really irresponsible on us, and they just say, hey, we just can't do it after all, so we got to facilitate their plan, right? So if we were just left at the last minute with their plan, and we had to facilitate it, and it's like we don't have to do it to like their expectations or anything, but if we had to take it over, very funny, Terry. If we had to take over their plan, like what might you do? Because that way, suggesting other possibilities for facilitation, there's no harm done for Chris and Rachel. We're just pretending like if you had to take it over, how might you make it your own, etc.
Man, Joe, that's pretty deep.
Like, for example, Terry, like you posted the Z-Strength video, and is that something you would put in the newsletter if it was your baby, or what might you do with that?
I don't know. That's such a one-off example, and it's just such a brilliant example of dance history that, and it's a real send-up of dance, dance styles as well. Anybody have any ideas on that? I don't really know what I would do with that, except maybe parody it, or maybe you could use a tool like Ziga or Popcorn to do your own version of that, and drawing from animated GIFs and video out there.
Hey Terry, I screwed up on the protocol, which is awesome of Chad catching me. So what I was hoping to do to transition this was to have Chris and Rachel. Yeah, come on, I worked all day, you guys. I was hoping to have Chris and Rachel just talk really quickly about what they thought like might be important in terms of facilitation before we go on. So maybe it won't feel like such a dry prompt. But yeah, let's try backing from my own protocol.
We're supposed to talk about what we think are the key things.
To do?
Yeah.
Okay. You're good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So we're talking about the stuff that we think is most important in the facilitation thing?
Yep.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, like introduction and community building is key because it's the first week. And so for me, as a facilitator, like that's the number one thing I'm looking for as a measure of success, is to make sure that people feel welcome and that people are getting to know each other, and that we're laying the foreground for our cycle and for other cycles that come along. And as somebody who was a latecomer to CL MOOC, to the stragglers that show up, that jump on and see it and can get it and can roll with it right away. So that for me has been a really big thing with this, is that's our goal. And when thinking about this, I was just trying to think, okay, they did introductions last year, how can we kind of tweak it a little bit but still really accomplish that? Because without that, I think that's the closest thing you could get to breaking a MOOC, is if you don't have a vibrant community. I think something else, I guess, would be for us, like once we kind of get the ball rolling, is to start naming and encouraging discussion about the connected learning principles. And this is, I guess, one of the things I really like about this, and why I really wanted to be a part of it is because the way you structure this experience is on the social and the making as the entry point, and then the naming and the declarative knowledge and all that awesome stuff as like a secondary or it's secondary in the sense that it comes second, not in the secondary in the sense that it's less important. And I think it's important to get people to step back and look at those connections, what's going on, to promote that conscious competence, so they have a way to transfer what they're learning in the CL MOOC over to their classroom or their family or their whatever.
Yeah, just to add to that, I remember it's something that I started to get really excited about when Chris and I were first planning this, and just thinking about how the whole idea of a how-to guide is so in line with the principles of connected learning, because like I was saying earlier, it's like we are this culture and we want to be better at some stuff, and so we create how-to guides to share with each other, and we access those. So it's this authentic place where, like, we're thinking about people as a whole, either in smaller communities with interests or just, you go to YouTube and you can find how to do anything. And so that shared purpose and then authenticity seems so in line with the principles of connected learning that I want to find a way to help people articulate that and see that.
I think we're good. Do you have any follow-up questions, Joe?
No, I think that's good. So now we are loosely following the protocol. So now we're going to do my fabulous prompt, which is, oh, good heavens. There, those sentences. Okay, so yeah, what would you want to emphasize, be aware of, or prepare if you were facilitating? And you can probably build on what Chris and Rachel talked about. I think in particular, I heard them say, like, they want to, like, facilitate deeper discussion, maybe. Like, that's one idea that was raised.
And the first idea that was raised, I think, though, was that, like, intro and community building. And I think that, Chris, you actually named it, or you named an aspect of that, which, just to emphasize, like, that people are going to be rolling in at different times. So it's like how to make it feel like you can, that how to make it rollable, I think. And I was just thinking about it, like, that just got me thinking about, how last year there was this we started talking about affirmations and just sort of this it's a, welcome, this welcoming stance and an affirmation stance. And when you got there, it was the perfect time to be there, and you're not late to anything. So that's one thing that I'd want to try to emphasize and make people aware of as they're entering in. It sounds like you're already thinking about that in terms of how you're framing the activities. And also just something we'd all want as a community to keep attentive to, I think.
I think one of the things that I would want to do would be to kind of live by this motto by James Carse. He says, if you must do it, it ain't play. And, I think that's one of the big discoveries for me last year, was the sense of play in the MOOC. Where sometimes things will seem off-topic, undirected, even strange, but I think it's all part of it, and you can bring it around. And if there's no play in it, and there was always play in every cycle last year. I mean, the play, when Kevin and I did the introductions last year, everybody played outside of the sandbox that we'd already created for them, and that was really pretty amazing. I think it's one of the things that made it succeed, was that at every point we encouraged play. Now, you can bring them around to connected learning principles, and you can kind of get them to initiate things like, they've got a good how-to that you want them to put in the Make Bank, and they may not know what the Make Bank is, so you can kind of direct them towards that as part of what you do. But play, I think I would have that uppermost in my mind after of course all the things that you want us to do, but play. That's what I would do.
I think plus ones for everything people have said. Things that I've been thinking about as the conversation has gone on. I'm coming back to some of the ideas, like in whatever newsletter, group, kind of public facilitation-y things that happen, welcoming people with, as we talked about, a variety of different kinds of makes at different levels is great. Being really explicit about, if you want to try this make and you run into trouble with this, that, or the other thing, or documentation, or not knowing quite how to share, make sure the community people who are there to help with those sorts of things, whether it's web making or the support team, name them right there. So go bug this person. Play is big. Make sure people feel comfortable bringing in their own ideas and sharing those things they find is big. And I don't know. I'm just there's this thing that a bunch of kids have been making at school, trying to make a infinity loop paper airplane that flies forever. I'm just thinking, something like that might be something interesting to do as a, as a Vine challenge, something in common, like, hey, there are all these different things you could do, but we could also all try this together and then share and kind of laugh at and talk about the results.
That does bring me sort of back to thinking about, like Joe was saying, that this idea that Rachel was talking about of sort of deepening the conversation, starting to connected learning, the shared purpose piece. I feel like, both the authenticness of this and then shared, I feel like it's a powerful, I guess I was just thinking, I was reflecting on how it's a powerful piece to have shared purpose at the front end of the MOOC.
Yeah, and that totally jogs my mind about the last point that I almost lost. It would be good too, as Chris was talking about, the competency phrase that you used. It would not be bad either to be really explicit about saying, this week we're really working on introducing ourselves to one another and to the connected learning principles. Pick a manageable number, like, openly networked. We're creating the network this week and making sure there are entry points for people who come later. And we're going production center because everyone's an expert in something, and we want to see what you like to make. And then we want to talk about those two things and just keep those principles centered, intentionally centered in facilitation conversations and publications.
I know I've talked a lot. I just, sorry, Mallory, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
It just triggered, Chad just triggered for me the, that when he said that networks, like we're creating the network, like what I thought was very generous about the way you said that, Chad, was that it's like just, it's an invitation itself, that we are creating that invitation for everybody to do this together. So that seems like something to emphasize too.
Yeah, and I think the point, Rachel, you said the word authenticity when you guys were explaining things you're looking for, and I think that's what a lot of people are touching on, is really that idea of through welcoming people and through sharing stories about yourselves as the facilitators in the process and your how-tos with them, allowing for that authenticity, I think, is also so key just in all of the things that everyone's been talking about.
That's what you do. I just, in the chat, I wrote that I don't have a single worry that you guys will be great. That's one of the things we did almost every single post at the beginning of last summer was just this. I mean, it's not, goody two-shoes boosterism. This is actually a belief and faith that your community, everyone in it, will do great. And it may be surprisingly great, And I think with yours it will be. So, yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, the other thing I might add is I think that, especially with how-to, so often when somebody posts an interesting make, you can almost predict that, the community will start to respond with, how did you do that? I want to know more about how you did that. And so the idea that it might pop up, and when we think about, like, sort of the very quick opportunities to think about this is just to notice that when somebody shares something cool, we ask them for this type of product, right? We want that information. Like, it never seemed good enough to me last year when somebody would post their make. It also we needed some type of explanation, and the more explicit, the better. And so I think that's the idea, that you're hitting on something that really does play into the community and the community interaction that you can expect is really cool, and something to try to think about nurturing or pointing to.
Yep. Joe, I just saw your prompt here. If I saw blank, I might respond by blank. And I don't have an answer to it. I was just wanting to put it out there in case other people didn't see it, because I think it's an interesting, if there's anything we might.
The thing I thought about when I wrote that was just kind of like, if I saw something that was like a very, like, kind of a routine introduction that seemed like it wasn't quite sure of the make or something, I might respond by really thanking that person for introducing themselves, or like following up to ask more. If I saw something that I might say was like, oh, that looks off, or that looks like a tangent, or I wonder if this person is not sure, I might respond by affirming or something. That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
If I saw something really cool or clever or neat or under the radar, I might respond by asking if I could remix it.
Mm-hmm.
Even depending on the medium, it could be something just as simple as if they tweeted their make from their blog or something like that, retweeting it and just wanting to share it with people both in the MOOC and outside of the MOOC.
I was thinking if I saw some of these, I might want to respond by making the thing later on in the MOOC. It should be sort of fun. And I did want to also pick up on Terry said if he saw something that might go in the make bank, and I don't know how much we've talked about the make bank, but that's the make bank has a place to collect makes, and it also has a place to collect how-tos, or they're called tutorials there. But so it's interesting that we actually do have sort of a repository that some of them could go into, and then. But others, like we mentioned, others might go to Instructables or something. I think it's pretty exciting to think about encouraging someone to, wow, you might want to publish this X or Y or Z somewhere else,
Yeah, we've on the make bank we've got. This is tailor made. We should have a big influx of makes. I mean, I'll be really. That's one of my goals is to pounce on people who have anything that remotely looks like something that could go in the make bank. And there are ways to participate in the make bank. You can lurk and look at what other people done. You can submit your own stuff. You can help. You can help refine a make that's already there. Somebody puts in one, you can put an example for it. So there's a lot of layers to the how-tos, right? You can have a very truncated form, sort of how-to, and we might encourage somebody to, well, put this in the make bank, and I will help you. Last year, oftentimes we would put something in a make bank for somebody simply so that we could make sure it got in there. So, I'll be doing that. That's one of the things that I'll be doing extensively. And this first week, it just seems like tailor-made for the Make Bank. So we're going to use you.
Okay, so as I'm looking back at my protocol, I think it's a good time to shift back to Chris and Rachel and have them talk about what they heard. And I'm realizing that I rushed in the creation of this fabulous protocol. So what did you hear that impacts your thinking now, Chris and Rachel?
Well, I really appreciated the reminder that this is the first week, and I know there's like an orientation happening beforehand, but this is a place where we're creating that network and helping people understand like the norms and processes of being part of the community. And so I really appreciated that reminder, because I have to keep, we may have people who did it, we will have people who did the CL MOOC, but there will definitely be new people too. So that was really helpful to me.
For me, and really, I mean, this sounds whatever, cheesy, generic. I mean, everything everybody said, I think, is really resonating with me, and I'm trying to take as many notes as I can. But that initial point that Terry made about play,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of one of those things. And with something like this, where there's a lot of moving.
Frozen.
Let's do the Google Hangout dance. Woo! Let's bring back Chris and Rachel.
There they are. Yay, it worked.
Just a second, Chris. We missed the last minute of what you said.
Just the importance of what Terry said about playing, and how if we're not having fun, they're not having fun, and then that's the lens we need to approach it through, because that's how learning works.
Yeah.
I also like the part that Chad said about the Infinity Paper Airplane project. And that, to me, really nailed that shared purpose thing that Christina talked about earlier, of people working on makes together, and putting that out there. So I'm kind of start thinking of ideas like that to put out there to see what different people do, and invite them to come up with a project that, they want to kind of crowdsource an idea or something like that and see what people come up with. I think that could be really exciting. And the totally obvious outcome of what's going to happen when people do other people's how-tos. Like, it's one of those things I'm hoping to see, but you can't really plan for. But I'm excited about that possibility. Anything else? We're good. I think we're good.
Good deal. Hey, so let's see. Last sort of words of encouragement. The one thing I wanted you to know is that, like, we're a week and a half away, and so we don't want you guys to be overwhelmed by like information or the Google Plus community, but we do have a MOOC facilitator community that we think probably now is a good time to include you in it, because this is when you'll have sort of those last-minute questions, and generally speaking, the group is pretty good about getting back to them, and I personally will pay attention to it. But, you can feel free to ignore it, but you can also feel free to jump in. So I'll make sure we get you in there, like from this point forward, so you don't feel like you're flapping in the breeze.
You guys have done an awesome job coaching us through this. We really appreciate it, and it's I don't know. I mean, we both coach full time, and it's really cool to go into this and get really good coaching and see what it's like on this end. And we definitely plan on stealing a lot from you guys already, and we haven't even like gotten into it yet. So this has been awesome.
I would say, I want to give thanks and kudos to Joe for organizing these coaching sessions too, because I think it's a really strong way to do this. So I'm really excited to learn from this, because this is kind of a whole new thing for us too. So thanks for being our guinea pigs too. Jeez, it's awesome.
I think what's going to be great is that you all will be coaching other make cycles too. You'll have a lot to tell them about your experience, and that'll be even better.
I didn't think about that, but I appreciate you mentioning that because that makes perfect sense. And when you guys sent out the invite and kind of presented the structure, I got even more excited about what I already liked because I was like, this is so cool that these guys are embodying these principles of gradual release of responsibility and helping us make the community and guiding us through that so you can just keep building that capacity and keep those principles alive and embodied.
Yeah, so I'd follow it up with just encouragement to document your process too and write about it because that will help all the learners. And as we go ahead, as I said in the comments, if there's anything on the Webby side I can help with, just let me know. And also, one of my goals throughout is to kind of work with the make leads each cycle to identify one or two things that we can actually put into a teaching kit at the end to kind of recapture. It doesn't even have to be the best of, just things that are like, oh wow, that totally belongs in like a CLMOOC teaching kit. It'll be in the Make Bank, but we can also put a teaching kit into the WebMaker community as another pathway into CLMOOC for future participants.
Yeah, a good way to do that would be just to link just a hashtag teaching kit. Anytime something like that comes.
Yep.
And then let Chad sort it out at the end.
There you go. And yeah, just put like CLMOOC and teaching kit anywhere you put it. Make Bank, Twitter, whatever. G+ community.
Yeah, great idea.
I'll throw it out there. Maybe our taxonomy. Thank you, Terry.
All right. Any other last words for anybody? I just appreciate everybody's participation, and it's great to see you both, Chris and Rachel, and it's great to of course have the team here and kind of flush this out. So any feedback about the protocol or the process, we can dump it in the CLMOOC facilitation community. But other than that, I think we should wrap it up while we're all these warm fuzzies flying around is a good stopping point. So thanks very much. It was I expected it to be a cool experience, and this was great. So I'm glad we were recording. So that's awesome.
Yeah, super fun.
Very
Thanks.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job. Good night, you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
Thank you.
Great job,
Bye.
Rachel. Great job.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Mallory. Thanks for coming.
Bye, thanks.
Yeah, I'm copying this chat, too, so I can save it for later. All right.